So not too long ago when reviewing the second season of Netflix's Castlevania series, I talked about wanting to get better at going back and covering shows I have done before when a new season pops up. Here to show that I am a man of my word, The Misadventures of the Baudelaire Orphans is back, and so am I, to talk about its third and final season. Speaking of which, if you somehow stumble upon this video and have not watched the other 2 seasons of the show, then allow me to direct you to my previous reviews, spoiler free of course, so you can get yourself caught up. With that out of the way, let's jump in. While the third season of the show is its shortest yet, consisting of only 7 episodes, it is jam-packed with content and covers books 10 to 13 of the series. Picking up where we left off last season, we begin with Violet and Klaus Baudelaire trapped in an out-of-control caravan heading off of a cliff, while Sunny is stuck with the dastardly Count Olaf and his incompetent troupe. While it should be of no surprise to anyone that the 2 eldest Baudelaires survive this event, and eventually reunite with Sunny, the rest of the season is quite surprising, with the various twists and turns and revelations we learn along the way about not only the mysterious VFD, but the various members we have met throughout the story as well. Featuring a swarm of snow gnats, a mechanical monster, a harpoon gun, and a truly haunting secret about the Baudelaire parents, this season not only sees the orphans struggling to survive the series of unfortunate events that keeps plaguing their lives, but struggling to decide what to do in general. As usual, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that at one point, when Olaf is pointing out the various crimes and underhanded things the Baudelaires have done throughout the series to get ahead, he isn't entirely wrong. From beginning to end, the story is definitely an emotional roller coaster, and seeing everything the Baudelaire orphans go through is quite a unique experience. Now, when it comes to things I think the show does well in its last season, there were a few. One thing I continue to give the show credit for is how it successfully continues to bring the books to life. From snowy mountains to underwater grottos, and even an imposing 9-story hotel, I find it fascinating how the show manages to adapt such different locations, all while making them feel like real, lived-in environments. This is especially impressive, given the vast cast of unique characters and the strange tone that must be implemented. And yet, up until the very end, the show did a fantastic job of giving me a strange, yet surreal world, just as I imagined it. Likewise, as I've said in reviews of the previous seasons, I continue to be equally impressed with what has been changed. While I'm not gonna lie and say that I think every new inclusion or change was perfect, I am impressed with how more often than not, the changes were well done and added to the story. From flashbacks that were never in the books, to straight up explaining some things that were just left ambiguous in the original series, I really enjoy these modifications as a book reader since they felt like they gave new meaning and context to the story I was already familiar with. While I know there are some people who don't like to see details changed, and I myself do question some adaptation decisions, I think that they are fine as long as they are done in a way that improves something. Speaking of which, it's a bit hard to talk about without getting to spoilers, but I thought the way the series handled the final episode, and especially the ending, was quite interesting. The best way to describe the original ending is dreary and ambiguous, with Lemony Snicket basically stating that he does not know what came of the Baudelaires and how it haunts him to this very day, as he lives a life on the run, only stopping to write the various books that make up the series. The final episode, on the other hand, was a pleasant surprise, because not only do some added scenes leading up to it give some context, including the appearance of the true mastermind behind VFD, but we get a more definite ending to the story of the Baudelaires. Sure, we aren't told outright where they are, but we get a hint of their fates, and the final moments of the show indicate a nice bit of closure for our ever somber narrator. That leads me to the final thing I think is worth mentioning, which is giving props to the acting. From the actors portraying the Baudelaires doing a pretty good job for child actors, to the various minor characters who brought their A-games to ham things up, I think everyone involved did a great job as their respective characters and really brought the books to life. However, when it comes to MVPs of the series, there's definitely no denying that Patrick Warburton and Neil Patrick Harris steal the show. Patrick Warburton as Lemony Snicket brings such an incredible melancholy to the role that I just feel like the man was born to walk around narrating things in a sad tone. On the other hand, Neil Patrick Harris brings a manic energy to Count Olaf that is just too entertaining to look away from. Whether he is being over the top and campy, downright sinister with his evil schemes, or showing some surprising vulnerability due to his mysterious past, he brings an impressive range to the character that I did not expect. Moving on to stuff the show does that I didn't like, there honestly isn't very much that I have to complain about. One thing that I wasn't fond of, I guess, and that I alluded to earlier, were some of the added scenes, especially during the trial episode. While don't get me wrong, the scenes themselves weren't terrible, I felt like some were too random and didn't advance the plot, while others were kinda awkward with their placement in the story. Another thing that I guess I would knock against the show is the fact that quite a bit did get cut out this season when doing the book to live action adaptation. Well, I get that stuff always gets cut out because that's the nature of adapting stuff, and that there was probably a hurry to get the series finished. It was a bit awkward as a reader of the books to see a lot of content just get rushed through. In the grand scheme of things though, I guess they weren't really such huge problems, but they were there all the same. So all in all, I am glad to see the show not only come back for another season, but wrap up its story as well. It may not be perfect, and it may change some things around, but I feel that overall this was a very solid third season, and the series as a whole totally did justice to the books. Filled with great acting, catchy songs, very well adapted environments, interesting changes, and a unique tone that never pulls its punches, this series is definitely one I recommend. The Baudelaires may have been through a whole lot, but I do not find it unfortunate that Netflix made the series chronicling those events. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything I say too seriously. After all, I'm just a wannabe reviewer. Thanks for watching.
You might think that the Baudelaires ought to prevail, be tucked someplace all safe and sound. Count Olaf captured and rotting in jail, his hench people nowhere around. But there's no happy endings, not here and not now. This tale is all sorrows and